Well, hey everybody, welcome back. It's Chuck. After a very busy week, heading up to New York, flying a flight down to Austin, and then heading to the Cybertruck delivery event. You may be able to tell from my voice, I've lost my voice after talking to so many new Tesla friends and old Tesla friends. I had a wonderful time seeing everyone. If I saw you there, it was wonderful to meet you and to say hi. But arriving back yesterday evening, and what a wonderful timing to get the latest version of FSDBeta 11.4.8.1, which we had heard had gone out to employees a few weeks ago with 11.4.8. So apparently there was a small tweak to a .1 point release, but very quickly the beta testers are getting it this morning. And it looks like it may be spreading around to a more broad audience. So maybe all of us are getting it at once. But in any case, since I was home, I figured I'd get out and do a quick first impressions drive today. Looking at the release notes in general, and I've posted these on X already, but in general, the release notes are the same as 11.4.8 that were released out on X. But the biggest thing is this second bullet here, introduced a new efficient video module to the vehicle detection semantics, basically improving performance with lower latency. That video module is referenced in about 3/4 of all the other notes in this release. So apparently this video module is an important part of this, and it honestly may be a stepping stone into V12. We really don't know that. But if I were to label before driving, what I'm expecting to try to see is a little bit better performance, lower latency due to this new video module. All the other release notes in here reference it to the most part. A few of them do not. But in any case, I've got an unprotected left-hand turn here. I'll try to get a U-turn thrown in and maybe some of the other roads. It is about 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning, so it's not a work day, but it is misty and overcast. And in this condition, the windshield wipers have been problematic. They've come on when unnecessary. So that is kind of why I wanted to get out this morning, is in this misty weather, to see if we still have kind of crazy windshield wiper behavior. But in any case, let's get going on this first impressions drive. Okay, this cut in is because my GoPro cut off due to voice commands being on, so I'm just going to restart it. But after I realized that, there is a new feature in this version that came over from production, which is autopilot activation with a single pull. I do have that turned on today, so as I engage autopilot or disengage autopilot, you'll probably notice I'm not having to double click the stock. I'm just using a single autopilot activation, and you can only disengage it with one, and it does not go to traffic aware cruise control. It goes completely off. So with that in mind, here we go on the first unprotected left turn. Let me see if I can get the traffic just about right. Looking through the fence. And we're engaged. Let's see what we got here. All right, should stop at the stop sign. There it is. Let's see how the creep feels with this new video module. Creep line's in the same spot. We do have a couple cars here. Okay, good. It does need to wait a little bit. There's 3 or 4. There's a tiny gap here. If it uses the right boost, it can go to the median. I think it's probably going to try it. It's going to need to go, though. Oh, it's waiting. Oh, no, don't go now. Oh, wow, that was a weird creep. It's like it started creeping, and now here's a large gap. So it made the right decision, and maybe that lower latency video module, and it should roll right through the stop sign, or the median, and it's going to the middle lane again. So there's our first unprotected left turn. It did go to the median. I don't really like it going to the middle of the lane. I'm sorry. I'm going to edit there to see if I can get the U-turn quick enough. And I think it did. Yes. All right, so it's going to get in the lane here and try to do the U-turn. This has never worked before. It tries it. We'll see what it does today. All right, and it looks like the traffic is going to be thin. There's the blinker getting into the left lane, turn lane. And let's see if it tries to map it. Okay, that wheel turning to the right again was uncomfortable as that large truck just went by. It did not leave the lane. I'm just pointing out how my wheel is turned to the right here. And you see it's kind of stuck. It's not even trying to map it at the moment. So now that the traffic's wide open, I'm going to press the accelerator, which I'm doing as an intervention. And let's see if it continues a little bit more. Okay, I'm releasing, and see it's going between making the turn into that side street, but the mapping still has it. So no change here. As soon as this traffic passes, I will go ahead and push it through with the accelerator just to see if it chooses to take the turn or if it wants to try to force the U-turn with the planner. I didn't expect this to change. There was no mention of it in the release notes. The video module inclusion of this should not have changed the way FSDBeta handles this U-turn scenario. All right, after this car, I'm lightly pressing the accelerator now. See what it tries to do. I'm pressing. Okay, and it's going to do that turn. So I just go ahead and disengage there. And then I will re-engage with one click. And there you see that was one click and it's engaged. Unsuccessful U-turn. All right, so this should take us up and throw us on our narrow roads test. Narrow roads is not going to be difficult today because of traffic, more than likely. So we'll probably just get a little bit of a read on the speed bumps and things like that. But while we're coming up through the stoplight and coming up towards our next turn, I'll just start a little conversation about the Cybertruck event and what I thought. First of all, I recommend if you ever get a chance to go, you definitely should go. You know, if you've been to one before, they're always fun and you understand kind of what's really going on. The most amazing part of this trip was probably the access we had to the Cybertruck production line that was taken down for one day, and talking to all the Tesla employees that worked the line. They were all so very friendly, so very helpful. It was obvious that they love what they do and they're glad to be there. They seem to be pleased and pleasantly surprised with their production rate. You know, I asked a few questions about where they were on the production ramp. They were very close-lipped about any sort of production numbers, but if I were to read between the lines, it felt like they were not disappointed. They were happy about how it was going. So maybe Tesla's doing a good job on the production ramp, and we'll be pleasantly surprised about how quickly they are going to be able to get to higher production numbers, hopefully for 2023 and 2024. I am going the speed limit here. I don't have an override set. You do see the cars passing me a little bit. I'm going to give it an extra 5 just for a little bit of comfort here as you see the cars going around me on both sides. My next turn is to the left, so I don't want to get all the way to the right lane here. But I posted a lot of video clips on X, if you hadn't seen those, of all the different stations they had at the production line. They really let us crawl around these lines and see what they were doing. There's probably some gems in my video clips I posted that I didn't even get to see because I wasn't able to focus as much on the little details that perhaps I captured on video. But I'm excited to get my truck. I've decided, you know, I'm going to be in the dual motor camp. I love the fact they offered an extended range battery pack. I think that's a great solution. I know a lot of people probably wish that range was out of the gate as included, but honestly, 90% of us don't need that range every single day, so having an option of not having it included, I thought was a great fix. Obviously, the price of the extended range, here we are coming with an unprotected left turn with a yellow arrow, going over speed bumps, the railroad tracks here, a little fast, and I did hit the brake there, too fast over the railroad tracks. So, did not acknowledge the railroad tracks. That does not surprise me. It never really has. So anyway, a little bit about the extended range. I do think extended range is a great fix. I think it's a great solution. I wish and I hope it's a little bit more portable, meaning like it can be installed and uninstalled relatively easy, even if it does have to be done at a service center. All right, coming up on our first speed bump, and it does look like it's seeing it here and slowing down to 17. All right, there's the first windshield wiper swipe. It's not actually raining, and here they go. So it is misty, it is overcast, but there is no actual mist on my windscreen. So when this does happen, and it looks like we are going to get one car for a narrow road scenario here, so that's great. If the windshield wipers get going too much, the car will say degraded mode. All right, here, so I'm going to go ahead and throw the side cameras up so you can see what the car's doing here. And it is doing the same behavior with the stop, slow down, and the wheel was turning too far to the right. If you can look in this right camera, there's plenty of buffer there. It should not have been turning towards that car as the car was approaching. So just with an N of 1 count, narrow roads felt the same. What I'm really looking for in the narrow roads improvement is for it to go further to the right, to use the allowable drivable surface to give more room and to just proceed through. Very slow and cautious here. We're in the road. It needed to proceed there. That creep limit was too far along, so I don't think that that was necessarily a good creep limit point for the road it had. One more speed bump here. Let's see if it starts to slow down. very late. It only got down to 22, 21 at that one. Okay, so this left turn here was one I've documented a few times. Had some navigation lane drift issues to where it kind of proceeded in the suicide lane as if it was a drivable lane and uncomfortably had to readjust. I'm going to leave it up here. It is an unprotected left turn into a suicide lane, and it's clear both directions now. It should proceed. Okay, they have fixed this one. That is good. Thanks, engineers. It was going into that suicide lane pretty reliably on earlier versions of 11.4. So it's good to see that they fixed that. And as it comes all the way over, that's good. I'm gonna go, I need to edit this trip here to continue the navigation of this route I've got built for you today, which I think has got a lot of incorporated pieces into it. So, back to the extended range. I want to finish that thought point. So I'm not going to get the extended range battery pack off out of the gate. It's obviously an accessory. We can add it later. For my daily driving, my longest drives are to Orlando, and on my current Model Y, I'm able to get there with about 15%, which is just fine, and that's leaving at about 85 to 90%. So I still got plenty of buffer on my kind of typical long drive. Road trips, towing, all of those things, I understand that range will be more important, but that's why I think it's an amazing option to have a range extender. Can't wait to see more about how portable that is. Like if you buy one, or gosh, what it would be great if you could rent one or lease one temporarily. Is it easy to put in? Is it easy to pull out? Does it require a service center appointment in both directions? Or could some third-party vendors get in that business of putting in a range extender for you as needed? Something to look into and possibly look forward to. In any case, the other reasons I'm not probably in the Cyber Beast mode, Cyber Beast model trim, you know, I could probably stretch and go for the price if I needed to, but the additional speed and performance are not the things I look for in a Tesla. I'm looking for function and range and some of the details around my daily driving. While I can't wait to drive in a Cyber Beast and try out Beast mode, just like the same with a Model S Plaid. When Ava came up and drove that one with me, it was an experience, but I don't think I need or want to pay for that additional feature set and carry around that extra motor in the rear that does take that additional 20 miles off of the range. Anyway, so that's my thought process on the two trims. And where I am probably going to go. But I do think if there's a group of you that is disappointed with the price increases and the range, sleep on it for a few weeks, just like we all did when the first reveal came out. 2019 was a long time ago when those prices were released. I would argue you should go back and look at the Ford equivalent prices, you know, on trims, the pickup trucks that perhaps a similar truck consumer would have bought in 2019, and where those same trims are here in 2023. Inflation has taken a chunk of it, but just the entire car market has changed baseline a little bit. I don't hold anyone to a promise they made 4 years ago before the entire COVID pandemic happened. The entire supply chain was reinvented and revamped and changed probably forever. So that's where I am on that. I expected the price increases, of course, hoping, but there were also a lot of things they added since that reveal that could have cost a little bit more. You know, the drive-by-wire, the four-wheel steering, some of these other features, you know, that weren't initially announced probably had a little bit of a price tag on them, and we don't know yet perhaps how much those added to the bottom line. Anyway, that's where I am on the Cybertruck event. Really, really glad I went and enjoyed seeing everyone that was there. On to V12. There was a lot of conversation with folks just kind of, you know, around about V12 and about where it is and where it's going. When are we going to get it? Why did we just get a new version of 11.4.8? You know, I thought V12 was going to be the next one. Didn't V12 go out to employees? All of those questions were coming up. I've said this before, but I'll just go ahead and say it on video. I'm looking forward to V12. But I do not think V12 is going to be amazing out of the gate. I do think Elon referring to it as feeling human has both good and bad ways of looking at that. You know, many sayings go, you know, to human as is to error, right? You know, humans make errors. Humans drive poorly. You know, Elon even said in his interview with Andrew Ross Sorkin earlier this week that humans are terrible drivers. So saying it feels human does not necessarily mean it's amazing. It might say it drives like a human, but humans also make mistakes. The other thing that could mean is it drives smoothly, and I need to edit my trip here again. The other thing it could mean is that it feels smooth, it feels natural, it makes the decisions a human would make on lane changing, on possibly windshield wipers, on blinkers, on all of these other features that humans do well. You know, if V12 comes out of the gate and does that, I think that V12 will feel amazing. But I also am confident that the first release to customers of V12 will not have a curated data set that is large enough or robust enough to be perfect in all scenarios. So here we got a merge. You see it did not use a blinker to get into that merge. It almost started accelerating around that Honda. I do have a merge here. I need to get over one. There is a truck behind me. Needs to be using the blinker. It got away with the scenario. No blinker and the zipper merge happened. So there's a good example. No change on the merge scenario for version 11.4.8.1. And now it just jumped out of the rightmost lane. So that was a good decision there, and I'm glad that it did that. Okay, so back to my V12 conversation as we're here on interstate, and going to do a little bit of interstate driving just for the first impressions video to try to include as much as we can. I am maintaining speed for traffic flow here, which is another good one. I do have a truck right behind me that is looking for me to scoot up. The speed limit is 55. I'm already going 10 over, so I'm not going to take it up to the speed. But here is another good example of maintaining speed for traffic flow. That's good. We'll see when it jumps down, if it jumps down at the next speed limit sign or not. And you see how it's highlighted blue. That's the same way it has been highlighted there. Okay, so I also put out a post this week on X about a link to a recent video from Andrej Karpathy. If you haven't seen it, maybe look for it. If you want to search YouTube, if you want to go back to my X profile and find it, that's another way of finding it if you can't seem to find it. But it's a discussion about large language models. And as you know, Andrej Karpathy is back at OpenAI. We don't know if he's going to stay there or not, but he probably is now that Sam Altman is back. But he goes into a very good educator's discussion, and Andre is wonderful at that, talking about what large language models are, how they are built. And at the end of the video, he had an amazing discussion that I have not seen a lot previously talked about the vulnerabilities of the training methods of large language models and how they are currently able to be defeated. He used the term jailbreak a couple different times, which is fine. I typically think of a jailbreak as an iPhone hack, but essentially getting around the current models. If you have not seen that and you're really thinking hard about what version 12 means, here go the windshield wipers again. I'm just talking a little bit about our navigation. We should be taking this right exit here for I-10, and that's great. It did that just fine. And I think we need to get over one more, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong. The vulnerabilities of the data sets that we train large language models on have some ways of defeating them with what would be non-intuitive techniques. And there was one that fascinated me, and I'll try to do it by memory. He asked ChatGPT, which is a text large language model, does not directly apply to vision large language models, but let's just use it for an example. Tell me how to make napalm. And of course, ChatGPT responded with its safety protocols of, I'm not able to tell you how to do that. Andre took this same exact question in text and encoded that text into a bit 64. So now it's a long string in encoded 64-bit of the exact same text question. And to a human, it doesn't look like a question even, it just looks like a bunch of strings, or characters and letters. But he pasted that bit 64 text into the ChatGPT prompt, and wouldn't you know it, the response comes out with how to make napalm in a detailed process. Which just goes to show you that, first of all, it's amazing that ChatGPT and these large language models understand how to read bit 64, even though it's not human readable, but that circumvented the safety protocols that were put in place in order to prevent some of these from happening. And that kind of was a mind-blowing moment to realize the ways that could be used. And then he went into a couple vision examples of asking some questions, and he said there are some tools out there now that know how to read the optimization and get around the optimization through some injections. And these injections are what I think could be fascinating with vision. And he showed an example of asking a question that it denied to answer, and then he added an image of a panda bear, if I'm not mistaken, and there was some unviewable text in that panda image that he added. So to us, it just looked like a JPEG or a PNG of a panda, but apparently there were some bits that were encoded in the image that said something else. I think it was an advertisement about Amazon, or it was something else. I'm not doing this. I'm doing this from memory. But the fact that ChatGPT is looking at these images by bits, it completely changed its response just by the inclusion of that image. So what that means is the large language model is making decisions in that situation off of both what you asked it and what it saw. So does that not mean that on one of these billboards here, a injection could happen intentionally or accidentally by something that a word, or perhaps a QR code, or perhaps something that we don't even recognize as humans means anything, but does mean something to the way that the model has been created for an end-to-end neural network. So anyway, some things to think about here. I'm coming up on some construction traffic, some lights. I am in a good lane where I don't need to move over, but you do see how the traffic is congesting here. A little bit of traffic indicated on the planner. I don't see any indications right now of the, it looks like we have an accident here, and there was a flashing trooper car. We didn't get any indication of slowing down for those emergency vehicle lights that time. The car was already slowing down due to the traffic ahead of it. So I don't know if that's a data point you wanted to see there, but I think that was interesting. Okay, so back to my thought. I really, if you want to think about the reasons that I am not sure where V12 will go, it's because Andre, in that little talk, introduced me to some ways that the data sets we trained these end-to-end networks on, and the model, the underlying global model that includes the parameters and the calculated weights, are ultimately, created by humans and have vulnerabilities based on the way they're trained. And bad actors can learn about those vulnerabilities and use them against us. And then of course there's random behaviors due to things the car will encounter that it has not been trained on, and then how it subsequently behaves will be an outcome that we'll need to measure. So I do think end-to-end is the way to go, but for everyone to think that V12 will not be beta, I'm not in that camp. I think we will be doing a lot of testing on it. I think we'll be looking for corner cases, but I do think that those corner cases will be different than what we're driving right here. Okay, so you can see the windshield wipers are now going in this fog. I do have a full self-driving may be degraded mode. Here, my speed is going the speed limit of 50. This is not a reduced speed limit due to traffic. But this is a scenario of the windshield wipers seeing fog that are not creating mist on my windshield, but it's determined that it needs them. And the windshield wiper engagement has created a degradation message. Typically, when FSD is already engaged, when this warning comes up, it does not necessarily kick you out. If it gets really bad, it will slow down your maximum speed, but and if I did disengage for some reason right now, which I'm gonna let it stay engaged, it would not let me re-engage necessarily in some situations. All right, it's changing lanes to follow route. It wants to get over, it does have a car there. I'm just showing the navigation. I do have the car trying to get us over to Memorial Park, which some of you are more familiar with. Here is this interchange, and talking about speed again, I need to be going with the traffic flow here, and I'm not. I wish it was going the speed of the cars around me, and you see it's slowing down to 46 and 47 here, even though the speed limit is 50, which is, in my opinion, downright dangerous here. And now it's hesitant to get over. It wants to get over. There's a couple cars scaring it. So it's acting very, very skittish here. I am taking this next exit here, so I do need to get over, I believe, one more to take this exit. This is one of the busiest and biggest interchanges in this part of the country. A lot of cars, they go faster than they should, multiple lanes, multiple ways of going multiple directions. But it navigated it without a disengagement. So in low traffic, in rush hour, that would not have worked because the lanes would not have had that those gaps for the car to get over. All right, this is a legal lane. The light is green. It should be able to roll this. It went yellow. It's going to continue. I'm fine with that. It is red while I'm in the intersection, but it had already committed. So that's good. It handled that just fine. I do want to say it got lucky in that interchange behavior going that speed. With the traffic density it had, it was able to, I'll say, drive like a granny and get over eventually. Which is good to see, which means functionally it can do it. It's just, I think most humans, it would have gotten stuck in the wrong lane in busier traffic or tried to do something dangerous by slowing down too much in heavier traffic. Okay, I think that was a really good discussion on where I am on V12. There's a lot going on, and I know I'm kind of rambling both with a First Impressions Drive talking about V12 and Cybertruck. Hopefully you're taking all this in if you're interested in this conversation. And I know the video is getting a little bit long, but I'm just going to keep going with it because I'm kind of combining some discussion with driving. And I'm going to update the route here probably after we turn. Okay, so I don't know when V12 is going to come out. If nobody at Cybertruck event, it didn't even come up in the presentation. It didn't come up anywhere in conversation. There were some people that got into a Cybertruck, I think Omar and a few others, and took some pictures of the software page of the Cybertruck screen. And I'll just show it to you for reference. This screen right here. And it did say V12. And then it had a software build that is a .44 right here, 2023.44, which is a production branch. But we're not really sure. Could that have been this software UI build? Because it did not say FSDBeta. All it said was V12. There are some UI software builds currently that said V11 long before V11 came out, if you remember that. So I do not think what we saw was V12 end-to-end on the Cybertruck. I think that was the 2023.44 build, I think, is a production build. In any case, I think... just to set that straight. Anyway, I may be wrong on that, but none of us really know. It never came up. It was never mentioned. None of the engineers in the trucks told us what software version it was running. I did take a very good up-close picture and video. If you want to see it, I put it on X also. It's about a 7 or 8 second clip of the front bumper camera on the Cybertruck. It is definitely hardware V4. It has that little Terminator red eye in the middle of it, which is... okay, we have some pedestrians up ahead. Just want to comment on that. The VRUs, they're slowing down for them. That was good behavior, nice and smooth. They were not in the way at all. And I'm just going to go ahead and add another stop here. I don't want to get busted for not paying attention, but I'm going to do that. Okay. So anyway, I forgot where I was on that. I think I was talking about, oh yeah, the camera eye. So I did get to see the hardware camera on the front bumper. Guys, I really do think this is just a bumper camera. There have been some leaked videos of when that camera comes up and the visibility it has, and they're all in kind of this camera parking mode. There's a front camera that is shown there. All right, I forgot to disengage, I forgot to take out that point. So it was, I'm sorry, I should have taken out that point. And all right, my route is good and I'm re-engaged. Sorry about that. I think it's just a parking camera. The leaked videos we've seen where that front camera was showing, guys, it does not have a 180-degree view. I took some side angles on that camera. If it was a true wide-angle camera, similar to the one in the rear of our current cars, and I believe of the Cybertruck, it could probably have about 170, maybe 165 degrees field of view, but it is not going to have a true 90 straight field of view from that camera. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm just kind of using a little bit of logical deduction about what that front camera can do and how it will be used. It is the best, most forward-facing camera we have, so if they thought about it hard and gave it a good wide angle, maybe it can be helpful. I will also comment that the repeaters on the Cybertruck. I look forward to seeing those front repeater cameras, what their field of view is. Because on the Cybertruck, believe it or not, those repeaters are pretty far forward. They're really in a good spot to get a 90-degree left point of view. Pedestrian here in a crosswalk. Good recognition. It did turn him blue. Perfectly handled there. A little bit too slow going through those cones after he had already passed. Not sure why it did that. Maybe it was because of this car in front also. And it has us going straight, which is just fine. But anyway, I do think that is just something we're going to have to look for. I do think the repeaters, if they were able to give them an increased field of view on the Cybertruck, it could solve all of. Now I wanted you to notice how it's going to use the lane with these parked cars here. See how it handled that just fine? The narrow road scenario, when there's a double line, behaves different than when there is no line. There were parked cars and an oncoming car. We merged at that scenario, and it didn't slow down one lick there. So anyway, look forward to testing that. Maybe we'll get somebody with a Cybertruck that'll be able to do a field of view test on the repeaters with kind of get an angle view. The repeaters are designed to look aft into the blind spots. They're not designed to look left and right, but since they didn't add any other cameras to look 90 degrees left and right, that's the best one we have. The B-pillar camera on the Cybertruck is in the same location behind the driver's head. While it will have nice V4 camera resolution, I think that it is not going to be the answer to high-speed crossing traffic. Now it's stopping in a location it should not have stopped. That confused that car. That car behind me is now confused. I'm actually pressing the accelerator to not be that big of an asshole. Because I had the right-of-way turn, he was stopping. I stopped in the road, which could have led him to believe, oh, why are you waiting on me? But then I slowly crept in front of him and then did not even accelerate to the speed limit. So that is why I chose to do that. All right, it's taking a left here at the light, which is fine. Windshield wipers are going crazy fast right now in this fog. So windshield wipers, once again, are misbehaving. Still have the degraded message there. All right, so the V12 camera setup, I think, is something else we're going to have to watch. I did not see, and I do not know, and if any of you that saw my clips noticed something I didn't notice, I don't know if the Phoenix radar that the S and X have, the high-definition radar that was put back in on the high-trim models, is on the Cybertruck. But if we were to take the scenario of saying, if it is, that high-definition radar could be the answer that we're looking for some of these high-speed cross-traffic issues if it has the visibility left. Nice unprotected left, nice gap, and it's proceeding just fine. That was great. Now, here's another conversation that many of us have not had. If you remember why we took the low-definition radar out, it was ultimately due to sensor fusion complexities that the team was having by taking radar data and merging into vision data and having to discern which one was better. And the low-definition radar had some engineering properties to it that it did not, because it uses Doppler, was not able to detect stationary objects and was creating some dangerous situations where it was not able to see completely stopped vehicles, especially in high-speed traffic like on highways. Hopefully the high-definition radar does not have those vulnerabilities. I'm assuming it doesn't. But now when you go into an end-to-end network software stack such as V12, with the right data set, can the end-to-end network solve for those sensor fusion issues that the team was originally worried about? In my opinion, the answer is yes. It should be able to do that. It should be able to take the vision in addition to the high definition radar layer and fuse it perfectly without the sensor confusion and difficulties that the team was facing when trying to create heuristic code to tell the car and the controls on how to behave. So I am hopeful that the team will continue to reintroduce additional sensors that can help in the end-to-end world by adding additional data that adds context and relevance in scenarios that only makes the car superhuman. I do like the argument that if a human can do it, the car should be able to do it, but I will tell you that the human can do it with a faster computer and with additional experience that perhaps the training data set does not have. Over time, that can be solved with more data, but I'll also say I can move my head and gimbal it and my eyes gimbal in more degrees of motion than the cameras currently have. The cameras are fixed. They do not pivot. They do not move. I can lean forward to improve my perspective at a corner. The B-pillar cannot move. I can perhaps change focus. I can change distance and things with my eyes, with my pupils and different things. The cameras are fixed in many of these areas. So I just want to comment that the vision argument is valid, but not in all thought processes around it. There are things that are different. If you continue to add low-cost sensors, in my opinion, such as ultrasonics and some of the other things that I think should stay, the car can be superhuman. And when I say superhuman, that's what we should be trying to achieve. You know, better than a human is one way of saying it, but why not give the car superhuman capability with perspective, aspect ratio, and tools that a human doesn't even have? I know Sandy Monroe, the Teardown Titan, is a big advocate of infrared vision in seeing in spectrums that humans cannot. It is even better in low visibility fog scenarios and things like that. So I think infrared is a very stable technology. It is something that very cheap cameras can do. It's another layer that adds perspective. It can see heat, and heat leads to animals in the dark and things like that do not depend on light. And I think that those sort of things could be very, very helpful in dark, very, very low light scenarios. And maybe one day we'll see an infrared camera, maybe in Hardware 5 or beyond. Okay, we're taking a turn here out on the Roosevelt. We did not get an unprotected left with the way the car mapped it. That's fine. It's a protected left arrow. And the rest of this drive is going to be, as we say, cake and easy peasy. Should not have any issues. So what am I seeing here? I did not feel anything different on this version. It felt the same. All the same issues that we've documented before are still there. Narrow roads still behave the same. The going into the middle lane on the unprotected left did not change. That one suicide lane that I think they had finished on one dot release to this, I think was fixed. I don't know if they fixed that with code or with improved map data. To me, that previous issue was a map data issue. A lot of people that talk about lane drift and things like that, I did not feel lane drift today. I don't have any scenarios where I've gotten lane drift every single time. So maybe Dirty Tesla, when he gets home, will be able to document that for you if it is still there or not. I'm just going to expect that it is, because this is a dot release, a 0.1 release that introduced a new video module. So that new video module, I think, is the thing we ought to be focusing on subsequent drives and looking for what has changed. Do we see improved latency? To measure latency, I'm gonna need more drives. I'm gonna need to just know that the car is thinking faster. Does it have improved detection range? Maybe on that one unprotected left I had at the beginning of the video, you could argue that it did have a little lower latency and some good detection range. It did creep a little bit in a spot where I knew it shouldn't go, but it very quickly stopped. Maybe that was one of the indications of lower latency there. So I think that is what this release is about, is introduction of this video module. Hopefully that's for V12. Maybe they need some more runs on this, some more data to get collected to have this video module run on. For those of you that remember my posts about the ADAS drivers being in my neighborhood, possibly testing V12, they are no longer driving in the neighborhood, so whatever they were doing, they've got their data and collected it. That was a few weeks before we heard that V12 had run out to QA employee testers. So perhaps that was data collection, going through a yellow light here, made the decision, and went through it just fine. So no hesitancy there. In my opinion, based on when those drivers were here, when we heard V12 was coming out to the QA testers, that 2-week period was probably a training session. I think they were collecting data. I think they were probably collecting video, perhaps of the ADAS drivers doing the drive correctly to add to the training set. And then those training videos are probably included into the curated set that V12 is being trained on. That is my guess on what they were doing. I did not get the chance to talk to any of the drivers. They were usually here when I was out of town, but that is what I think was going on there. But I think I'm happy with this drive. It did really good. I packed a whole lot of content into this video, and I'm looking down and I'm running over 45 minutes. I know none of you watch this for 45 minutes. If any of you do, leave a comment below. I really kind of want to engage. You know, when you watch the statistics on what people watch in videos, it's a very high peak and then it drops off within about 5 or 6 minutes. If anybody's here still at 45 minutes, shout out to you. Maybe just enjoy the conversation and maybe the Saturday morning drive. I'll try to render this video quickly for you guys so you got something to look at maybe this weekend. Got one unprotected left-hand turn here, and it looks like the car is going to get away with a gimme. It should just roll this one if it were me. Didn't even hesitate. Nice job. All right, guys and girls, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Leave a comment below. So long.